Hello, welcome to beautiful, sunny Bournemouth. It doesn't get much better than this when it comes to locations, and it doesn't get much better than this than a fight we have coming your way on Saturday night, live from the Vitality Stadium in Bournemouth. It is Lawrence Okolie versus Chris Billam-Smith, when friends become enemies. Good job these two, though, are good friends. Andy, Johnny, good to see you. Oh my gosh. When we got down here, I knew it was going to be sunny. Did you ever imagine in May we'd be stood here, basking in the sunshine in beautiful?
The last time we were here, we were playing volleyball on the beach. Again, we were all surprised and
No,
shocked.
we weren't. Last time we were here was December. It was freezing.
Okay, then the last time I remember being on the beach, but it was absolutely gorgeous. Now our microphones are made of ice cream. I'm so worried I'm gonna crush it. And that's it. Voice is gone. I'm out.
We've all got a bet on that lasts about 10 minutes before you start eating it. Andy, it's stunning, isn't it? And Saturday night, the Vitality, I mean, they've already increased the capacity, haven't they, to 15,000. It was originally around 11,000. But it's going to be absolutely fabulous, the atmosphere on Saturday night, surely.
100%. I've been looking forward to this for weeks since it was first made. And this setting is just... It's amazing. We're staying up at that hotel on the cliff, and I got into my room, and you look out the window, and you think this is something else. Boxing takes you to some places, but it doesn't get much better than this. You know, I love a beach. It always brings back Rocky 3. You know, Rocky when he goes out to train with Apollo in LA, trying to get over the knockout defeat to Clubber Lang. Scenes on the beach, you know, really emotional scenes on the beach.
You are such a fanboy. Oh my! You've just recited Rocky all over again.
Love it. It is stunning though. Today though we are here for the public workout, but all the talk has to be about the main event. Johnny, what are you expecting in this one? I know you're so looking forward to it.
You know what? I actually now Lawrence Okolie had been given some stick for his last fight against Eddie Light. And he wasn't sure of what was in front of him, and of course he's not pleasing on the eye, let's be honest. So now these two guys are familiar with each other. These two guys know each other. They say familiarity breeds contempt. Now, but let's remember George Groves and James DeGale. George beat James in the amateurs, and James has always had his numbers in the amateurs, always had his number in the gym. But James felt robbed, turned professionally, thought, this guy, I've got his number, I beat him up in the gym every day of the week. Again, George did it again. This might be that situation. Sparring and fighting are two different things. And I can't understand why Shane would put Chris in if he didn't think his man had a real chance of turning it over. That's the only thing that's niggling me. But Lawrence is thinking, I've got your number. I know exactly what to do with you.
Well, Andy, just to give you a bit of context in terms of how well Chris and Lawrence know each other. I mean, when you talk about sparring, they spar, well, I think they said over 300 rounds, which is phenomenal in terms of rounds in the gym. They've been former stablemates, so as Johnny said, they do know each other very well. Can we read too much into that? Will that be a bonus, or could you see that being a bit of a negative?
It's pretty unusual to have a fight where, between 300 and 500 rounds is what they're saying. I get the feeling that throughout that process, the one who would have been making more extensive notes would have been Chris, because I think he was kind of the junior partner in that, because Lawrence was a more established fighter. I don't think Chris was thrilled when Shane decided to take Lawrence on. So I think originally that relationship...
You had two cruiserweights that had aspirations of world titles.
Exactly. I think originally that relationship might have been a little bit frosty, but as it turned out, they got on very well. I agree with Johnny. Shane and Chris will have a plan which they feel they can use to beat Okolie. I think Okolie will feel like he can handle whatever Billam-Smith brings to his door, because he's been able to do that with everybody so far. He's had criticism for not being great to watch Lawrence, but no one's even nearly beat him. No one's come remotely close to beating him. He's only really looked like he was a little bit hurt once against Wadi Camacho. I did see him get stopped in the amateurs by a really good Cuban back in 2016, but that's the only time that's ever happened to him. So, like I say, I feel like Chris will have taken maybe more from those rounds than Lawrence, but Lawrence will be the one who will just be more confident, the confidence of the unbeaten fighter.
Do you think Chris, though, will be buoyed on from Lawrence's last performance? I mean, Lawrence himself, he gave himself 6 out of 10, didn't he, for that performance? But he had been out of the ring, Johnny, for just over a year, hadn't he? So he wanted to shake off some ring rust. What do you think?
Will he be inspired by it? He knows. If anybody knows Lawrence Okolie, it's Chris Billam-Smith. If anybody knows what they can get away with, what Lawrence is good at, it's Chris Billam-Smith. So he'd have seen that thinking, I know that guy, I know what he should have done, what he shouldn't have done. Now, this has got to be his career best performance. He's got to be careful what you wish for. He wants to box at home. He's now boxing, it's like Roy the Rover, he's now boxing for world title here in Bournemouth, in the stadium. Everybody's turning up. So now he's thinking, if it's ever going to happen, it's going to be now. I know Chris gets hit easy. Lawrence can bang. But Lawrence, so Chris knows not to give him space to set the shot up. He's got to try and rough him up. He's got to try and drag him into an uncomfortable exchange. And it's a case of who lands first. But because he knows if he tries to outbox it, Lawrence's power is going to take him out. So it's about tactics and how he goes about it. The further the fight goes, the better it's going to suit Chris, I believe.
As you just said there about Chris, though, he's fighting in his hometown in front of 15,000 people. For Chris, this is kind of what dreams are made of, isn't it? A world title shot at home. Do you think that will sort of benefit him? Will that come into play on Saturday night for Chris?
Yeah, I do. I think it will benefit him because his career's been really well managed. I think McGuigan's have done a great job with him. They've got a really good track record in that regard. You look at how quickly, in terms of the number of fights he had, he became European champion. And it's right up there with you know, the elite level of fighters, to be honest with you. And getting in this shot outdoors at Bournemouth Football Club, it is a fairy tale, and sometimes these fairy tales come true against the odds. You know, I'm not saying it's the same as Ricky Hatton against Costas Yu, but at that point, Hatton was a heavy underdog against Costas Yu. Career had been really well moved, but people didn't think he'd do it. But in front of his home fans in Manchester, he did it. Josh Warrington, career moved immaculately. Again, went through the levels like Chris has, British, Commonwealth, European. Got the world title fight against Lee Selby outdoors at his football ground at Leeds. He was 7-2 that night. I remember the odds because I bet on him and won quite a lot of money, which paid for my suit for my wedding. But he got it done. He got it done. You know, sometimes it can happen. He is an underdog, Chris, and correctly, but I think that extra 10% or however many percent it can be from being in the situation he's in, I think he can make it count.
But can that also add a lot of pressure onto his shoulders, having to perform in front on such a big stage, and the world title shot is always open?
Yeah, it does, and I think Okolie's the kind of character. I think he'll relish being in the away corner. I'd love to see Lawrence this week be just a little bit bad-tempered and belligerent.
Do you really think we're going to see that from Lawrence this week? Because the Lawrence we know is always sort of, he doesn't show emotion, does he?
I really want that though, because I just feel like, yeah, he wasn't great against David Light. He wasn't great against David Light, but it was the first fight with a new trainer. He'd been out for a year. He had a lot of hassle outside the ring. He's had a lot of criticism for not being good to watch. I just want to see him kind of stand there a bit so he can say, I'm the champion, I'm undefeated. If I'm so rubbish, how about one of you come and beat me?
His attitude has been blasé. And he had a little swipe at Shane McGuigan to say, it's Shane I want to be. Now Shane has come out and he's trying to attack the mental side of it. Lawrence not one step heavyweight, squeezing down to cruiserweight because he's not got the confidence. Shane's not talked about the physical attributes of what's happening in the gym. He's trying to get into the mental side of Shane, of Lawrence. Lawrence will be smug. Lawrence will be trying to be as cool as possible. But let's face facts. Let's call a spade a spade. Good business is Chris Billam-Smith winning. Good business. Lawrence Okolie's in the who needs him club, but unfortunately everybody needs him because he's the world champion. If he loses, he's going to struggle because he's a fighter that will beat you and make you look bad. Good business is putting that stadium down here in Bournemouth. Good business is this. That's what you get if Chris wins. So there's so much at stake. For Lawrence, he's got to win.
It's not just about the WBO title, is it?
Not at all.
There's much more at stake here. There's also a lot of pride on the line for Lawrence Okolie.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, he's been criticised heavily during his career for not being good to watch. And the fight against Isaac Chamberlain, who just arrived actually, and Matty Askin at Wembley on a huge pay-per-view.
Chamberlain fight perhaps a little bit too soon?
Yeah, maybe, but you know, they weren't good to watch. But he's in this unusual situation, Lawrence, and not many fighters are in, whereby he has a way that he can win a fight. And every time so far he's been able to resort to that if he's felt that he needed to, which is to get up close, get hold of you, wrestle you.
Catch you on the shot where you don't expect
and wrestle the life out of you. And he can win fights doing that. He'll be confident he can do that against Billam-Smith on Saturday, but I think he's probably thinking to himself, can I do that again? And I'll be really interested to see whether in the intervening weeks Sugar Hill's managed to kind of get the message through to him a little bit more about fighting that kind of big man fight, those big man basics. Snap that jab, right hand, turn at the waist. You know, that's what I really want to see from him.
And how much improvement, Johnny? We'll pause in just a sec because we are actually going to be filming these open workouts and talking about these. But just one last question on that. How much benefit do you think it would be, the fact that this is his second fight with Sugar Hill? He's had a little bit more time, not that much more time, because it's only March we last saw him in the ring, but he's had a little bit more time to bed in with Sugar.
I always think it takes 3 or 4 fights for a fighter to gel correctly with his coach. For the coach to think a shot, shout a word, and he gets it, to understand the translation. It'll take 2 or 3 of those, and so for both fighters, they've just got to get to know each other. Even though they are both fight and train, they've got to get to know each other, even though they work a lot in the gym.
It'd be interesting, won't it, to see how, like you just said, Andy, the emotions. Who's going to get to who this week? Who's going to bite first? Or are we going to see the Lawrence Okolie that we all know that is pretty much no emotion and just very, very chilled?
If we do see him kind of not act up a bit, but something like that, I think it would be done on purpose. I don't think it would be him being too over emotional, but I would just really like to see him just kind of give us a little bit of a backlash from some of the criticism, you know, and take it a bit personally, or at least seem like he has, and just turn around to us and to Boxer and just say, listen, I know the script here, don't think I don't know. You think I'm rubbish to watch? 9 weeks after my last fight, you're going to take me to Bournemouth in front of your guy, in front of 15,000 of his fans. I know what you want, but I'm not going to give it you.
I've supported I've supported Lawrence against the criticism he's had, because I was that fight. I used to get criticism like that, and it's not until you find your feet, until you find who you are, where you are as a fighter, well, people will get it. Lawrence, give him time for his style to work, and he'll prove it at a time when people least expect it. But at the moment, he's still going, and he's going to get criticism. That's part of the game. When you're there, all of a sudden, you're a legend, look what you've done. But it's the learning part that the public needs to be patient with. And that's the hardest thing for them.
Let's just take a pause and talk about our main event for just a few minutes. Stannard is in the ring. This is, of course, the eliminated with English super welterweight title. Lee Cutler is his opponent. This should be a good one, Andy.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. It's we thought this might get kicked up to a fight for the full English title, because people kind of thought Sam Gilly, who's the champion, who we saw at Alexandra Palace on Sky at the end of last November, I kind of thought he might vacate, and that could still happen maybe, and that this would get promoted to be for the English title. It's an eliminator, but it's a real high level for an English title eliminator. Super Stanley Stannard.
So far, so good for him, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. Good amateur record. I was just having a quick chat with him. He's won the Haringey Box Cup once, got to the final another time, and Carl Greaves, who's lacing his gloves, who's been around for a long time and knows as much as there is to know about bringing a fighter through, particularly through the small halls. He likes him a lot, and when you watch him, there is a lot to like. He's got really good feet, really good basics. I think this is going to be a very, very interesting fight.
What do you like about him, Johnny?
Yeah, Carl Greaves. That's what I like him. Carl Greaves is a smart guy. He's a smart cookie, and he really believes and backs his whatever charge he's got. He's in there with. Stanley's a good fighter, and Carl will not waste his time on situations like this on such a stage. I've known Carl from when he boxed. I've known it. I've seen him in the gym. I've been in the gym. How he works with the fighters. Technically, he's underrated. He's on point. So if he's got the right tools in front of him, then this guy can walk on water.
Well, that kind of makes him as well. He's got nothing to lose, does he? He just wants to make a statement and shine on the big stage on Saturday, announce himself.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that he's been after a Midlands area title fight for a long time, but nobody would fight him, and that's the problem you can have when you're on the way up. But just watching him here, he's a southpaw. He does switch a little bit sometimes, but he sets up as a southpaw mostly. And what he's doing here is exactly what you'll see him do. He likes to work around that front foot and stay in that tight circle. He's a big Lomachenko fan, and you can see why. He's always on you without throwing bundles of punches. So generally speaking, he's going to be good to watch. I know he had a little operation on his elbow, his right elbow, so his jab hand, about 8 weeks ago, and that came about through, as it always does, through overextension. When I've seen him in the past, he likes to get to where he is now and kind of leverage his height and his long levers and punch hard on the inside. But against someone like Cutler, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him just keep the distance a bit more and try and snap that jab.
He's not
it's just a really good fight because Cutler is a come forward kind of a guy.
And he's not a typical southpaw either, because he's tight, he's correct, he's on point, and so therefore with that right hand jab, it's powerful. Right hand jab is powerful. The left backhand, the left speeding it as well. How he works up close. Most southpaws, they work on the back foot, they make it over for you, works up close personal, and he works well.
Look who's come to join us. It's Harry Redknapp. Good to see you. How are you doing?
Good, yeah, all good.
You brought the weather for us, Harry.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be good for the fight, and everything looks good, doesn't it? Worst places to have having a fight night than Bournemouth, isn't it? It's fantastic.
Absolutely beautiful, and this is our second time in the sunshine down in Bournemouth. We're down here in December, but it's absolutely fantastic. We are basking it, loving it. Are you coming on Saturday night?
Yeah, looking forward to it. Yeah, can't wait. Should be a good fight, shouldn't it? It's quite an even fight. I should listen to what John says and what Johnny says and have me bet.
Why would you do that, Harry?
Because he's a good judge. I listen to him. So it's a tough one to call.
Who are you calling?
Well, I've got to stick up the local boy. Chris is, I see him at most Saturdays at Bournemouth football matches, and so he's a lovely guy, great guy. They both look good guys, but I've got to be with the local boy, haven't I?
Should Chris win, should the local boy win on Saturday night, how much of a local celebrity status do you think that will be? Like a hero, I guess, around these parts, Andy?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the great thing about having a fight in a town like this, isn't it, Harry? Because you take it away from the hot spots, if you want, and everybody just gets behind their guy. And Billam-Smith, I mean, he's been out on the pitch in front of the supporters, and as we saw with Ricky Hatton, if you could get a football club behind you, I mean, it's a massive thing for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's all new to Bournemouth. You must have kid at Bournemouth suddenly got Premier League football, but never had, 100 odd years in the lower Division 2, Division 3, whatever, and then suddenly now we've got Premier League football, now we're getting Premier boxing here. It's fantastic to see, and it's great for everybody. They love their sport, and it's good. So, the fight sold out in no time, didn't it?
And they increased capacity, Harry. It's now 15,000.
Yeah, brilliant. So it's great. We need more. Can't beat it. Boxing, football, everything's buzzing down in Bournemouth.
It really has put sort of Bournemouth on the map in boxing, isn't it? The last few times they've been down.
You know what? This is where you find out where town cities have the support, the sporting support that's there, and Bournemouth really, especially. We'll see Saturday night. The noise will be ridiculous. You're walking on this is all everybody's talking about. And now we're down in Bournemouth. We've got Harry. We've got royalty here. He's come to watch it. So therefore, I think for Bournemouth, for this to happen, Chris can be a local celebrity. He can be a superstar, and that's what he moved promotional outfits because he wanted to box in Bournemouth. And sometimes they say, be careful what you wish for. He's got exactly what he wants. He wants to fight at a football stadium, and that's exactly what he's got. I think he'll box out with his skin and give it his all for the fans there.
You're used to big football matches and the big occasion. How do you think Chris will deal with the pressure of Saturday night of boxing on such a big stage?
Yeah, I suppose he's got to keep his cool, and it's a bit like being a footballer when you've got a crunch match. You can't go out there and get carried away with the atmosphere and come out and leave himself open and get caught with one early. If he's got a game plan, he's got to make sure he sticks to it. And it's a cool head on Saturday for him, really.
It's going to be interesting to see, isn't it, how the crowd affects him.
I think Lawrence likes being booed. Some fighters feed off that.
He likes being in the lion's
Chris
den.
Eubank used to be like that. He used to like being booed. And the first time he got cheered, he got turned over. I think it was against Carl Thompson. I think it was. I can't remember which fight it was. But Lawrence is one of those fighters that's very comfortable being in the lion's den. He said he used to get bullied as a kid. Now he's like, I can back up my boast. So, but for Chris to walk out here and hear those cheers, he's thinking, I promised you a world title fight. I am going to leave heart and soul in that ring and give you everything expected.
Yeah, it's going to be good to see. Who are you coming with on Saturday, Harry?
I'm coming with my son and my grandkids. They love their boxing as well, so we're all looking forward to it.
The whole family look forward to seeing you then on
good.
Saturday.
Look forward to seeing you.
And the weather's going to stay the same, apparently. We're in for a heat wave.
We're in for, get on that beach for a couple of hours.
We will be. Johnny's bought his budget smugglers, isn't he?
Yeah. Last time he came down, he said him and his pals were marching up the beach in them.
That's me.
They'll be looking out for you again, John.
He says.
And those awful Crocs. Good to see you,
Well
Harry.
done, nice
We'll
to
see
see
you
you
on
later.
Saturday.
See you later.
You have bought those awful Crocs as well,
Yes, I
haven't
have.
you?
Yes, I
Do you
have.
remember those Crocs last time in Bournemouth? I thought we hid them, I thought we burned them.
Just, erase them from my memory.
All right, let's have a look at Lee Cutler.
Welcome home, Bournemouth's own Lee Cutler.
It's a big opportunity for Lee to impress in front of his home crowd as well on Saturday night, Johnny.
26 years old, Lee Cutler. Again, everybody that's, as Harry said, you know, to be down here in Bournemouth, to actually box in front of fans, you're going to want to try and steal the show. You're going to want to be part of the wave of sporting success that's starting to come down here. So whoever's from Bournemouth and whoever's fighting on this bill, they're going to think it's all about them. And so, again, a great opportunity.
And also, fighting in a stadium is different, I guess, for the fighters than fighting in an arena, isn't it? It's a new experience for them.
It makes you feel big time. You start off in leisure centres, little social clubs, and all of a sudden you're in a stadium. You think, wow, this is for real. So if you can't handle it, and your bottle's going to go, it's going to go in the stadium. If you can handle it, you will rise to the occasion.
So, what are we expecting from Lee Cutler on Saturday, Andy? What does he do well?
Well, earlier this year, he was actually recruited by Team Ryder, John Ryder, for sparring because they felt that he can mimic Canelo. I'm not saying that he's at the same level as Canelo, but that gives you an idea of the kind of fighter that he is. He likes to come forward, get on the front foot and be aggressive, try and use his head movement cleverly, slip punches on the way in and then get to work. Basically, that's what he likes to do. That sparring in the end didn't quite work out. It would have been ideal for him as well because Stannard, as we saw, is a southpaw.
Good experience though,
yeah,
nonetheless.
massively. Would have been huge. I think the day they went up for it, John had to go and have a scan or something, but he jumped in with a few other of the matchroom guys, and that's where he really first got noticed. Sparring matchroom fighters coming out of COVID early 2020. Him and Brad Ray were then put together as a reserve bout for a couple of cards in the February, and then they got on the undercard of Okolie Glavatsky in the March in 2020 over 8 rounds, and it was a massive opportunity for the pair of them, and he's got a lot of regrets about it because he said to me he just didn't do the weight properly. Even though it was up at middleweight, he didn't do the weight properly.
He's having one of those days, the skipping rope.
Yeah, he
you
is,
know what?
yeah.
We all have those days, don't we, Johnny, with the skipping rope? Sometimes it just doesn't work.
No, it just hurts. It hurts. But you know what? I think when it comes to the fight week and it comes to that workout, you really want to do as little as possible. When it's in your contract to just give a little bit of something. You give as little as possible because you've got to measure everything right. You've got to measure your energy levels, your weight, how much before the weigh-in. It's not easy when you just. This final week is a hard week when you've got to watch your weight, watch your energy levels, watch your confidence, and so then it'll do as little as possible.
I guess it's about managing those, isn't it? Managing the days, managing your energy.
So he's not brought the gloves, not got bandage on, so he's no intention of
But let's just say you don't have to do anything necessarily at these workouts. It's not obligatory to do a certain thing in the ring.
No, but something else to bear in mind, because it's Wednesday and they're fighting on Saturday, if you've got an obligation to make a weight, which they do because it's a British Watching Border Control English title eliminator, on Wednesday you've got to make your 3% weigh-in basically. You've got to be within 3% of your fighting weight 3 days before the fight. So that's just something they have to do that not everybody's aware of, and it comes generally on the same day as workouts. So for a lot of fighters, to be honest with you, this is the last thing they want. Yeah. But it's just part of the game. You have to come here. You have to try and build.
You've got to style it out as though you want to be here because you know your opponent or your opponent's people are going to be watching. So you're going to make out as though this is easier than it is for them. But everybody's going through the same mental turmoil.
But it's difficult, it's there's a lot going on during fight week, and people can kind of forget that sometimes. So I've got a question.
That's the other thing for Chris Billam-Smith. I was looking at all their sort of commitments they've got this week, especially when you're the hometown fighter, and you've got to show up, haven't you? You've got to really show up and put on a display for the crowd, and you forget how draining that can be for you as a fighter, Johnny.
It is, and that's I hate this stuff. Brendan would just say, Johnny, go in there, we'll do as little as possible. Juggle a ball.
You didn't have to do social media in those days,
Exactly. So there's even more pressure on these guys here. But it's all about the bluff. It's about the hustle. And so right now, again, don't let anybody kid you. Nobody wants to do this, but they've got to do it to get to again, this is the business side of the show.
What's this going to come down to then, Andy?
I think it's a difficult one to call. I'm just really interested to see how Stannard's going to go about it, because what he's doing in the ring here, Cutler, again, you know, even if they're just shaping, you can still get a sense of what they're about as fighters, unless they want to deliberately try and show you something totally different. He slipped southpaw now, which is something he does do, but I haven't seen him do an awful lot. He will come forward, he'll try and move his head on the way in, drop his height, dip his knees, work his way in. He's not just going to walk forward. Stannard could choose to just meet him in the middle, which would be great at that mid-range, but I think he might get on the jab more than we've seen him before and try and mix things up a little bit, Stannard, in which case the challenge for Cutler will be getting past that lead hand. I think Stannard's got a couple of different ways he could maybe do this. Cutler does generally tend to do it one way.
Where will Cutler see Stannard's weaknesses, do you think?
Cutler has variety. Cutler has variety, so that variety is probably the weakness, because if you've got somebody in front of you that's got so many different ways to attack defence and offence, it makes them having to think long and hard about what they've got to do, and that's what Cutler has. He has a lot more variety, so it's a case of which one can hold their form better than the other.
But which one do you think is going to hold the form?
You know what, even though I think Cutler's got a lot more going for him. I do, but I do think it's going to be a great fight. I think it's close either way.
In terms of the undercard more broadly, Andy, which fight are you most looking forward to?
It's either this one or Eggington against Pickford.
I was going to go there.
Eggington against Pickford is...
Eggington is never not in an exciting fight.
It's one of those fights where when I was told about it a few weeks ago, I just thought, oh, okay, you know, there's just no way. I'm not jinxing it, I don't care. There's just no way that this isn't going to be a good fight, because stylistically, we know how Eggington fights. He's better than people give him credit for. He always has been. You can't win what he's won without being very good.
It seems like he's been around forever, doesn't it?
It does, because he's just had so many fights on TV. He's had so many high-profile fights. But for Pickford, this is absolutely massive. Because
you think Eggington's older than he is, don't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I mean that kindly. I don't mean that disrespectfully. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, he admits it. He admits it himself. The Savage has been on the loose for, you know, a good while, but he's backed a lot into his career. But for Pickford, it's huge, because I remember him winning a really, really interesting undercard fight back in 2017. It was on the undercard of Gervonta Davis, Liam Walsh. You remember that one at the Copper Box? Yeah. Floyd Mayweather was in town. You know, it was a real big deal. Frank Warren card. It was matched with a guy called Aaron Morgan, both undefeated, unusual kind of fight to make, and he won it by stoppage.
Let's just listen to a Big Mo then.
No gloves for you today, Lee. You want to show anything with the pads today? Keep it a little bit of a secret as we head on Saturday?
Bare knuckle champion, aren't I? Or Bournemouth.
Now you're back in Bournemouth. You're back in front of your hometown. There we go. Some Lee Cutler fans here today. Now you always do a big draw, but we're going to be in Vitality Stadium. Are you excited to show out for your home on Saturday?
Absolutely buzzing. What more could you want? The weather's come out for us again this year, like it did last summer, and I've got a good opponent to try and show it against, and I will do. And I've been doing it all in the gym. It's just on fight night now, and I can't wait.
Now, an eliminator for the English title. Why don't you go ahead? Look at that camera right here on Sky Sports. You're going to have a lot of new fans that are joining you, that are going to be on your side on Saturday. Anything that they can expect, anything that the fans can expect from you?
Explosive, and the longer it goes, the better it becomes for me.
I like the sound of that. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time for Bournemouth's own Lee Chaos Cutler.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate Mo, Big Mo? So, looks like something out of Miami Vice today, doesn't he? Big Mo.
He's styling it out, isn't he? Yeah, he's styling it out.
Can
absolutely.
I tell you, Big Mo, when he first came on the scene, I thought, this guy's annoying. No, I love him. I love him. He's like, everything about him, he's cool. He's got a swag and that sexy voice. Come on.
Absolutely
so he's on
brilliant.
point. He's on point.
He's great. So, Lee Cutler is saying that the longer it goes, the better it is for him, Johnny. You agree with that?
I do. And it shows a fighter that's got confidence in his fitness, the work he's put in. It shows a fighter that has a game plan and what works. Some fighters actually work better the second half of a fight. you know, they come to their own. Some fighters are like that, and he's probably one of those kind of fighters.
Andy?
I'm kind of reluctant to make too firm a prediction about how it will go. I think it may well go long, this fight, but I think for Cutler, he's had one chance boxing on Sky before against Brad Ray. I was mentioning it earlier. He felt he did the weight wrong. He got stopped in the first round, so he blew it really, and he'll know that he can't really afford to do that again. Stannard is a super relaxed, confident guy. Speaking to him backstage, and it's the same for him. It's a massive chance.
Coming by way of knockout, ladies and gentlemen, introducing the former IBO World Super Welterweight Champion, Sam the Savage Eggington.
I think the way we can describe Sam Eggington is he's consistently exciting to watch, isn't he?
It's in his DNA. That's who he is as a fighter, and I think he's one of those guys that when he walks away from our sport, you'll always look back and you put Sam Eggington down, you think warmonger, win, lose or draw. That's the kind of fighter he is, and entertainment through and through.
He's already won Fight of the Year, I think, twice before, so I think that gives you a little indication of what you could be in for on Saturday night.
100%. There's so much to admire about Eggington because most people know the story, but he turned pro after losing his job as a forklift driver, and his plan was to be a journeyman, to be in the away corner and just make some money. And John Pegg, who's been with him all the way through, convinced him that he could be a bit better than that. But he's done it the hard way. He had an absolute war for an area title fight against Dave Ryan for £1,500, and since then he's just built from there. Barry Hearn really took an interest in him, and that's where things started to roll for him, and that's where we first started to really see him. Won British Commonwealth titles at welterweight. They got beat by Bradley Skeet, and we thought maybe that'd be it, didn't we? But then
he's an honest
up
pro.
To super welter, and he's just kept going.
Yeah, he's what you call an honest pro. He gives heart and soul in there when he gets in there, no matter what. And that's why a promoter like Barry Hearn, I like this kid, I like everything about him. Very genuine. And there's not very many honest pros that are there. No excuses. He's not one of those fighters that makes excuses for himself. He makes sure he ticks every box. And if you don't get it right, I'll say, you know what, hands up, that wasn't my time.
Keeps it real, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. And that's why he's well liked within the fight game by fighters, even on a domestic level, on an international level. He's well liked by many people in boxing.
And as we were just talking about age there, 29, but then you look at his record, you look at the types of fights he's been in, and you just can't believe he is 29.
No, you really can't. I mean, he's I don't know. It takes a little bit off him when he gets rid of the beard, but he hardly ever does that. You just look at the challenges he's happy to take on time and time again. He won his last fight, which was just a kind of getting back in the swing of things. 4-6 rounder on one of John's local shows. But before that, he went to Australia to fight Dennis Hogan, and that's just a great example of the kind of thing that he's happy to do, that he's willing to do. He won a European title at Super Welter. He's earned his stripes over and over and over again, and he keeps doing this because he enjoys it, and it's just the easiest way for him to put money on the table. And he's the kind of fighter where every now and again people will call for him to retire, and I know that they'll sit down, him and John, sometimes and think, well, why? I'm not getting, no one's taking liberties with me, I'm not getting beaten up. There's so much to like about Eggington. Always has been.
In Joe Pickford, the opponent he faces on Saturday night, he faces a big puncher in Joe Pickford. Just explain why this fight could potentially be so exciting.
Pickford's had this kind of strange career in a way, because when he turned pro, not really much was expected of him, to be honest with you, but he just got a bit of a sway through the small halls, boxing mainly around Southampton, where he's from. And he just kept knocking people out. It was as simple as that. William Warburton took him the distance over 4 rounds, but that's the only fighter who's managed to go the distance with him. He's won all of his other fights by stoppage. And then he had this fight in May 2017, as I mentioned, at the Copper Box, on the undercard of that Javonte Davis-Liam Walsh fight. And he stopped Aaron Morgan in the 5th, and it was a real big deal. People were very excited about it. I remember I was myself. It was a great fight for an undercard. He got the win, and that should have been a springboard to really big things for him. And it just didn't turn out like that. He didn't box for another 19 months after that, which is incredible, really. There was a fight with Kieran Smith rumoured, that didn't happen. Kieran Conway was in the frame at one point, that didn't happen, and he just disappeared. And it was during that period where, you remember this well, I'm sure, where Cheeseman won the British title, and then we had Fowler against Fitzgerald, and Kieran Conway was coming through off the back of a draw, and we had, it was a real buoyant scene at Super Welter, and he was just nowhere to be seen, Pickford. But he can really crack, he can really punch, and these are just two guys, neither one of whom wants to take any kind of a backward step, and I don't expect we'll see either one of them do that on Saturday. I really, really don't. I would be absolutely amazed if the bell goes and one of these gets up on their toes.
This is the thing, it's not exactly going to be one of those fights, Johnny, that's a slow burner, is it? From the get-go, it could be fireworks.
But remember, Pickford's got a 95% knockout ratio. I think he's knocked 19 of his 20 opponents out. So I'd be very surprised if this actually goes past the halfway mark. Pickford's actually older than Eggington, surprisingly, even though Eggington seems to be been around forever. I think this is one of those fights where you think you've got to be smart here, because Sam can take a shot and he's got a massive arm. Pickford can dig, so he might make the mistake of thinking, I'll just blast him out. He shot one. This is where mistakes have been wise, being smart and having ring craft gets you through.
And also, I imagine, keeping your emotions in check as well, because this could have the tendency to let those run away with you.
Yeah, I think of the two, Eggington's that much more seasoned than Pickford and just so much more used to the big occasion. I think Pickford's got to be a bit careful, Johnny, that he makes sure that he keeps things under control, because this is a massive opportunity for him. But to be honest, win, lose or draw, even if he were to lose to Eggington, if it's a really good fight, he'd acquit himself.
It's not a bad loss.
Yeah, it's not a bad loss.
It's not a bad loss, but Pickford might get excited. It's like one of those computer games, you just outpunch your energy. And Pickford's got to think, I've got to be smart, I've got to be conservative about what I'm doing, because he could punch himself out, but then, because Eggington has the experience to be able to deal with something like that.
Just hearing a bit of news, and that is that Isaac Chamberlain will be boxing on Saturday night. His opponent is TBC, that is to be confirmed.
He's just rang my phone. I thought, what's he ringing? I'm on air.
It will be just that, Johnny. He will be around fight week. Of course, he was due to be fighting Mikel Awal, but that fight now has gone away. But Isaac wants to keep busy, so we will be seeing him on Saturday night, which is good news for Chamberlain.
Yeah, it's really good, because he would have been so frustrated about Mikel Awal pulling out, and Mikel did that about a week or so ago. Health reasons, I think, was the reason cited.
Toothache, apparently.
Right.
Dental work.
And Isaac is actually Isaac's ruthless when it comes to actually trying to wind an opponent up. He said he's going to get a t-shirt made out just to try and wind up Lawal, because he said don't pull out, don't look for this. And so there's real beef there between these two, and I was actually looking forward to that fight.
Well, at the press conference when we announced the Billam-Smith Okolie fight, it was those two, wasn't it? Those two were going at each other the most. They were trying to get at each other's skin.
And if it's legit, Lawal will be so mad, because he'd be thinking, this is what it looks like, and Isaac's very good at stirring the pot to say, look, I've pulled out for X, Y, Z reason. But eventually that's a fight we can look forward to. It might be a headline somewhere else down the line, but it's a good fight to look forward to.
Could well be, but for Isaac Chamberlain, you can totally sympathise how frustrated he would be when that fight sort of doesn't happen at the 11th hour. So it is bonus news, good news for him that he was going to be out on Saturday.
I'm a big fan of Isaac, always have been, and even in the days when he was a sparring partner for Deontay Wilder, and then he decided to settle himself in the UK and get on with his career. I like him. He's a respectful young man that loves the game. He's still naive, and he still makes mistakes. He still wants to learn, but he's still ambitious. So everything about him. So that's why I think this fight, with his chance to win a British title, he's just got to wait.
Looking forward to seeing him in the ring on Saturday. It is absolutely roasting here, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Feel for the boxers in there.
Yeah, I do. I mean, we're right out in the blazing sun here, and I'm a pasty-faced man, so I've got to be a little bit careful. But I just think Isaac will be absolutely steaming about that, about Lawal pulling out of the fight, and I'm not questioning the reasons behind it for Mikel Lawal. You have to be, if you've got something that's going to put you enough off your game that you feel it's going to decrease your chances of winning too significantly, then you have to do it.
I saw Isaac as I was checking into the hotel And he gave me a big hug and he said, I knew he'd pull out. I just knew. I've got it. So unless there's something going on behind the scenes, his eyes would say, I knew he'd pull out. I know he'd bubble. So he thinks he's bubbled. He doesn't believe it.
No,
I think we can only speculate, though, can't we? We can only go on the facts that we're given.
No, true. But like Johnny said, it does just make it all that much bigger for when it happens. That could definitely headline the show, 100%.
Smith, I said Smith, wait, putting in W's and city names for no reason. But Sam, the Savage, going for the vacant title on Saturday. The sun is shining down. It's beating on you today. How are you feeling?
I feel good, pal. Yeah, long trip up, but we're there now, and yeah, I feel good. I'm full of energy. I'm excited. Yeah, I'm going to do a job and go home happy.
Well, I mean, going home happy obviously means you're going to be going home with a belt as well. Now, you're competing on a big stage on Saturday, nearly sold out, 15,000. We're going to have people on the pitch. We're going to have people in the stands. Are you excited to put on a show on Saturday, more than anything else?
Yeah, like I say, I've heard about, the main event and the way he sells his tickets, and, they come out for him, so it would be a massive atmosphere. Like you say, it's sold out, 15,000. I'm looking to go out there and put on a good fight, and, that hopefully, the fans will enjoy it as much as me. Now, you come in with over 40 fights of experience, so I feel like we have a general idea of what we're going to see from you on Saturday, but any little teasers or tips of what we can expect from the Savage? If you've watched any of them, it rarely changes. So, if you've watched any of them, just expect the same. We know this kid can punch, so you have to be a bit careful. But, past that, it's the same night's work as any other.
Well, we're excited to see you work. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time for Sam, the Savage, Eggington.
Even a slight lid on the excitement there, Sam Eggington.
I love that, though.
I do.
I absolutely love it. Big Mo says to him, so what can we expect? And he's just, I'm just going to do what I always do, which is come to fight. I know he can punch, but yeah, as for me, it'll just be what it always is.
And that's the thing with Sam Eggington.
Brilliant.
When he says that, you absolutely know it's guaranteed, because he's consistently exciting, isn't he, every single time?
Yeah, he's delivered it all the way through his career, as I said, right from those early days, boxing Dave Ryan, right all the way through. And you look at some of the names that he's been in with. Remember that massive win he had against Frankie Gavin?
Yeah.
What a great night.
What a night.
Just a really good night all round, wasn't it? He went away to Italy, got a win against a guy called Orlando Forniglio when it looked like he might be coming towards the end, because he'd had that quite bruising defeat against Liam Smith. That strange passage where he lost to Hassan Moquinho, which wasn't supposed to happen, because he was supposed to have a massive fight a couple of weeks later. He's had it all.
Is the other half of that title fight for the vacant WBA International Super Welterweight Champion from Southampton, England. Here is the undefeated Joe Pickford.
So Pickford almost fighting at home. He's from Southampton, so just down the road, but we'll technically call it kind of like the home fighter.
Yeah, I think so. He's been based out of Bournemouth rather, for a little while, but as I understand it, recently he's kind of moved gyms back more towards Southampton. But I definitely feel like he's going to want to try and cash in on the idea of being the home fighter. And of course, out of him in Eggington, he is much more the home guy. But as we've outlined, it's a massive night for him, because he's been waiting for this kind of opportunity for what would have felt like forever.
A bit of a step up for him, though, in terms of Sam Eggington. Eggington's the one that does have more experience. How key do you think that could be for Eggington on Saturday?
Yeah, it could make all the difference, because Pickford, as I say, he's had that one big fight which he won, which should have led to bigger things. It never did, and really, since then, he almost had to start his career again, and it's been in with fighters who he was supposed to beat, and he has beaten. He's been on Billam-Smith's last couple of undercards, had a really good knockout against Romero, where he just kind of threw the right hand, dipped his knees, looked like he was going to go to the body, but dropped his height a bit, went to the head. and then he stopped a guy called Raphael King. Great left hand to the body.
In 3 rounds.
In 3 rounds,
yeah.
Yeah, it was impressive, but it's a massive step up when you look at who Eggington has been in with. But that, I think he's at the point now where this is absolutely what he needed. There's no way he could turn this down. And as we said, win, lose or draw, so long as he does the business, it could still lead to something.
But a chance, though, for him to make a statement, Johnny, and shine on the big stage on Saturday night for Pickford.
I think that's what he's got to do. It's a great opportunity for him to make a statement. I've seen him, and sometimes I've seen the frustration when that punch power's not worked, it's not clicked, it's not detonated when he's wanted it to. I don't think he's going to have to go looking for that in this fight. I think this is a fight where, again, it's about punch power, resistance. It's about just getting the timing right.
This is absolutely brilliant. Look at this. Someone's actually getting a workout in there. It's not Joe Pickford.
You know what? He's making a holiday of work. He's making a holiday of work, which is a nice thing. Daughter's there, wife's there. I think it's shows how comfortable and relaxed he is.
I was just going to say, Joe Pickford looks incredibly relaxed. He looks happy. He's sort of enjoying himself, which you always say, Johnny, a happy fighter is a dangerous fighter.
Yeah, always. You know, if you've had a good camp, then I think you can. What a good camp does, basically, is, as far as I've always understood it, Johnny, is it just kind of keeps doubts and fears a bit more under control. If you know you've done everything that you're supposed to do, then you've got that peace of mind. It doesn't mean that you know you'll win, because you train as hard as you can, you get in there, the bell goes, and whatever happens, happens. That's the reality. But if you're happy and settled during fight week, it's always a great sign.
I guess, Johnny, it's a comfort, knowing that you've put everything into it, you've left no stone unturned. Do you feel more mentally prepared going into the fight? You haven't got any sort of niggles in the back of your head?
So you're doing these kind of fights, but when you know your back's up against the wall, you need that edge. I personally, as a fight, when it got to this point in the fight, I wouldn't have done this. I would have kept the two separate, because you need to go in there.
In terms of family, you're on about?
In terms of family. But when he's comfortable and confident with what's in front of him, then, and that's why he's happy to bring his family and make a week.
And every fight is different, Johnny.
Every fight is different.
Look who's come to join us, Ben Shalom. Ben, thanks
Hello.
for arranging a lovely weekend down here in Bournemouth.
Very, very hot again.
We're very much enjoying ourselves.
Yeah. No, it's to be honest, when we first came here last year, it was a bit of a pipe dream. Of course, we wanted to get to the stadium, and we kept saying it. But the first show, I think we sold 2,000 or 3,000 tickets. To be selling 15,000 tickets 12 months later is pretty special. I think it shows how strong boxing can be down here. It's the biggest show they've ever had on the South Coast. You've got Portsmouth, you've got Salisbury, you've got Bournemouth, everyone coming on Saturday night. It's crazy.
That's the thing, this is the third time we've been in Bournemouth in under a year, isn't it? It's fast becoming a really popular venue for boxing.
It shows the power of the local hero, doesn't it? You know, you've seen it with Josh Warrington and Ricky Hatton, especially when they're connected with the football club. It's just gained momentum. Like the whole, there's almost no one left in the town that isn't coming on Saturday night, and it's very special. It's a massive opportunity for Chris Billam-Smith. I feel like he feels that everything is in his favour. If he's ever going to beat Lawrence Okolie, it's going to be on Saturday night, and they're very confident.
We've spoken about that in terms of dreams. It doesn't get much better than this, does it, for Chris Billam-Smith?
No,
a world title at home in front of 15,000 people.
I don't think he could have ever dreamt this. When we signed him, he just wanted to fight in Bournemouth. He'd been asking for it his whole career. He got it once, he got it twice, and now to be at the stadium for a world title, not just a world title, but a domestic world title against his old stablemate. This is what dreams are made of. I think this is written in the stars for Chris Billam-Smith, and he'll feel that this is meant to be, and that he's going to become a world champion in front of 15,000 of his home fans on Saturday. So it is. What have you got there? So.
He's got a lady.
You made that worse, actually.
Sorry, I just saw it go inside. I thought
he's in trouble now.
So Ben, I'm just curious. In weeks like this,
are these ice cream cones?
Yeah, just don't eat it, Ben. Not for eating.
In weeks like this, what's it like when you've got both horses in the race? Because you can't lose on Saturday, but
no.
Does it make it any more relaxing or not?
It does, to be honest. It feels more relaxed. Sometimes you're going in and you see me jumping up and down on Promoters Row, and it's difficult because you've got so much invested. I think I'm invested in both Lawrence and Chris. I think they're great guys, they're great fighters, great ambassadors of the sport. Of course,
Do you never get pulled in terms of fighters when you've got them both? Is that exactly what you're kind of saying?
I mean,
in terms of managing
I'd imagine
both?
during the week, whoever you spoke to last is probably the one you think is going to win, because they're very convincing, aren't they, in the build-up?
Yeah, I think what I'm surprised about is how convincing Shane McGuigan is. He's been in there with Lawrence for years and years, and he's supremely confident that Chris Billam-Smith wins on Saturday night. And we know that Shane McGuigan doesn't mince his words. He doesn't. When he brings a fighter to us, he'll tell us exactly what level they're at. He doesn't come out with the hyperbole of this is going to be the next world champion or this is going to be that. And the fact that he's that confident makes me think, really, could Chris Billam-Smith do it? Because on paper, for me, Lawrence Okolie is the best cruiserweight in the world.
So pointing out the obvious, which one makes good business?
I'm not going to answer that.
I don't think that was the question. That's certainly not for the Wednesday of fight week, is it?
No, this sounds like IFL.
No, it's a good exciting fight because both fighters know they've got every reason to make sure they pull this off.
I think it's the perfect fight for both of them. After what happened with Lawrence Okolie in Manchester, which was a difficult night for him, he'd been a year out of the ring, a lot of expectation, and the performance got a lot of criticism. And so for him, this is 7 weeks later in front of a full stadium. Who could ask for more? This is what he wanted.
Does that make him even more spurred on to make a statement?
This is a different Lawrence Okolie to 7 weeks ago. I can see it. I was just speaking to Sugar Hill. This is a completely different animal. That hurt him. I know it hurt him.
In what way?
Training harder, knows he needs to change his style, knows he wants to be main eventing on Sky, which won't happen unless he can entertain. This has hit him hard, and I think we're going to see a completely different style from Lawrence Okolie, completely different performance. But that's what gives Chris Billam-Smith a chance as well, because Lawrence Okolie can't revert to what we've always seen. He's there to put on a performance. That means it's going to be easier to hit. That means it's going to be more of a fight, and that's where Chris Billam-Smith will feel that he's got a chance.
Do you remember post-fight in that David Light fight, when I mentioned that this fight potentially could happen, you were like, no, they're never going to fight each other, they're friends.
And that was mainly because of their friendship.
Yeah.
But then Lawrence dropped a line out and said, it's to beat Shane, it's not to beat Chris. And I think that's why Shane's probably come out as loud and as vocal as what he has done, because he's now taking that personal. And so that's what makes this fight even more intriguing, even more interesting, but even more appetizing for both fighters, for both camps.
Who's that going to play into the favour of them, having Shane? Surely Shane's in Chris's corner, so he's got experience of both.
It's going to play in the favour of Lawrence, because once you start rattling the coach rattles the fighter. If I can get to the coach, I've got to the fighter. I can say whatever the fighter's expecting, but you get to the coach, he's not expecting that kind of insult, that kind of attention. So I think it works in Lawrence's favour more than it does in Chris's.
Do you agree, Andy?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I do. A lot of the times during fight week, I don't really pay all that much attention to who says what, because it just doesn't really matter. But in this scenario, it is quite different. And I was saying earlier, Ben, that I'm quite keen this week to see Lawrence just be a bit belligerent, a bit kind of angry about why does everybody criticise my style? I'm world champion, I'm undefeated. I gave you a shot here, and be even annoyed with us, with you, with the world, basically, for being in this situation.
I think that's what this night is for him. It's a statement. It's, I don't care what you say, I'm going to go into someone's hometown in a voluntary defence against all odds, and I'm going to put on a performance. It has got Lawrence's back up, and that's what we will see.
Did you not think twice about it?
This is what I was going to say to Johnny. I didn't see this when we signed Lawrence Okolie or Chris Billam-Smith. This was not a fight that we ever thought could happen. So it was sprung up upon us, and it made so much sense. I think it all came from, Lawrence being slightly disrespectful towards Shane McGuigan, and then the script switched, and suddenly Shane was like, you know what, I believe I've got the man to beat him. So that's why we're here, and it's great for boxing. I think both guys deserve a lot of credit. Chris Billam-Smith was given a choice of who to fight in the stadium, and he chose Lawrence Okolie, and Lawrence Okolie could have fought anyone he wanted.
Johnny, you think that it could play into Lawrence's favour in terms of the Shane link? Could you not flip that and say psychologically that could affect him, that he knows Shane so well and Shane is in Chris's corner?
But he also thinks that, and I get that, but he'll also think that he has a lot more to offer, and working with Sugar, he's probably thinking, I've learnt more with this new man now than you ever taught me. So he knows Shane hasn't seen everything about him. For him to say that, for him to go for Shane, he's smart, he's very sharp, because you've got to rattle. He's got to rattle. He can't rattle Chris because they know each other. He's got to rattle the true power behind the throne.
He's trying to rattle Chris. Chris. Do you remember the show he mentioned about the wedding? He was invited to the wedding. Then didn't Chris say I got married in lockdown or something?
You can tell that beef's not that beef's not bad. That beef's not. There's no beef there at all. But these fighters have got to put themselves into a position. After this fight, I can see Chris and Lawrence still sitting down having a drink afterwards. It's probably Lawrence and Shane sitting down. That's what you probably not see.
You'll know better than me, but if you've sparred that many rounds and that many years with the same fighter, do you not know what they're about? Do you not know what to expect?
But this is why I think this fight is better than any of the fight that Lawrence has had, because Chris knows what he can do. He knows what he can't do. Lawrence knows what's in front of him. I think these guys will engage so much better than any fight we've seen Lawrence in.
Before we go back to talk about the main event, let's just have some chat about Isaac Chamberlain, who is in the ring, because he was due to be fighting Miguel Lawal. That fight was off. We didn't know that Isaac was going to be fighting, but now he is. Opponent TBC, we understand.
Yeah, look, Isaac Chamberlain for me is one of the most unlucky cruiserweights that we've got in this country. He's taken the big fights for me at the wrong time. I think the Okolie fight really affected his career. He then took Chris Billam-Smith, having four and 6 rounders, and still put on an unbelievable performance that night. And I just want to see him get his opportunity, and that's what the Lawal fight was about. It was about giving him a chance to build again. There's Jack Massey in the division as well that I think he'll be fighting later in the year as well, but we want to keep him on the card, give him an opportunity, and then he'll fight Lawal hopefully when Miguel's
give an opportunity, and Johnny, and the importance of keeping busy, isn't it? Yeah, keeping out there, getting a bit of momentum.
Got to keep him busy. I've got a lot of time for him. I think he's so enthusiastic about our game, regardless of the losses he's had when the opportunity's been there, and he's willing to be patient, to wait for his turn. His turn will come. I'd be very surprised if this man doesn't pick up a domestic title and move on and move forward. It's his time, and sometimes you're going to learn on the job, and that's what he's had to do.
In terms of fighting, what do you like about him?
I like everything about him. I like his attitude. I like the technical ability that he has. He's got to get out of that sparring partner mentality of being happy to come second place. And so at times when we saw him box Chris, at times at the exchanges, Chris has finished the exchange, and if you're a sparring partner, you're happy to tuck into that safety mode. And I can see that sparring partner mentality. He's got to shake that off and be a leader, be a front runner. And I think the losses to Lawrence, the losses to Chris, I think they hurt him. But they're fights where you learn from.
And that loss was to Chris here in Bournemouth as well. So a chance for Isaac to sort of right that wrong here in Bournemouth.
Yeah, I think he'll just be relieved to still be on the card. It'll be enormously frustrating, but the upside to it is that, as we said previously, him against Lawal for the British title, that can absolutely headline a show. That can headline a London show, no question about that. He has had a strange career. I used to go and see him at Miguel's in Brixton quite a bit when he was training with his uncle, Ted Bammy. Riak Paul was down there at the time as well. Chris Congo, John Harding, guys like that. It was a really, really busy gym. I used to like going down there, and it just took him a long time to kind of not just recover from that defeat against Okolie, because he came back with a good win against Luke Watkins after that, but then he just disappeared. He just completely disappeared, and you watch careers drift and stall in boxing, and sometimes people don't recover, they just don't get that opportunity, but he's back, and he went straight into a massive fight off a few easy wins on Channel 5 with Mick Hennessy, and a huge fight with Billam-Smith, and what a fight. Just a good example of, if you accept the challenge, again, win, lose or draw, the manner of the performance is what it's about. That was the fight
that he suffered the broken orbital bone.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. If you can go through these fights and have these losses on a big scale and still stick at it and still start to have the same ambition, eventually it's got to pay off.
But how hard is that, Johnny?
Oh, it's so hard, because everybody, the public and people around you, they're talking about the negatives. You've got to have a good team around you. You've got to have a good team around you to keep you positive. And I like that. When I watch Isaac in the gym, when I watch him boxing, he's got a lot of, you call them showreel shots. Showreel shots where you do it in the gym. You wind the shot up, you ping the right hand in, you finish off with a showreel left up. He's got a lot of those. He's got to put them into practice, because when the success starts to come, when he starts to pick up the titles, and when his time comes, he will be a fully fledged fighter. You don't have to be an unbeaten fighter to get to the top.
But you've got to have a bit of sympathy for him in that department, because that will come. But for that to come, you've got to be fighting regularly, haven't you? You've got to be out there.
Yeah, that's it. Activity is so important. I mean, we say it so often, but it's so important. And sometimes if you can't really see a way through in your career, if the pathway isn't obvious, you just got to get on a path.
And when things are out of your control as well.
Yeah, exactly. Stay ready. These are all cliches, but they're true. Stay ready, and something will happen for you.
I think we're going to hear from Isaac. Big Mo's going to grab a word with him.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined here by Isaac. I.C. Chamberlain still has the IBF International Championship. Still looking ahead to getting that world title. Isaac, you're no stranger to Bournemouth. You put on a Fight of the Year contender last year. How does it feel to be back?
Feels amazing. Just want to say thank you to everyone coming out and support the main event. It's going to be a great fight.
Now, I got to give you props. A lot of fighters, they sometimes come up here in the ring, dance around a little bit, maybe hit the pads. You are full-on sweating right now. Now, we're going to be outdoors on Saturday. Are you excited to be outdoors in Vitality Stadium?
Yeah, it's going to be great. I think it's my first stadium fight, so I'm looking forward to just soaking in all the energy, and it's going to be great, man. Great experience.
Now, you've competed on high levels. You've built up a heck of a fan base. You obviously have family and friends supporting you as well. Anything you have to say to your support staff?
Just thank you. Thank you for everything from the bottom of my heart. It means a lot, and I wish we could have got the Mike Lowell fight, but he pulled out because some phony toothache. But we keep it going. Oh, yeah? No, you haven't.
We got Brandon Glanton here ringside.
Oh, yeah? Are you sure you've been calling me? I don't know. I've never heard. That's not what I heard.
Who you fighting?
Huh?
Lowell pulled out. Who you fighting? Who you fighting? You ready? I'm ready right now. Oh, yeah? I'm ready right now. You got to change the weight, but I'm ready right now.
Possibly a Brandon Glanton, Isaac Chamberlain fight in the future?
I'm trying to get this fight, so I had to come way over here just to get this man. We've been trying to get this fight for 2 years. He knows it.
That is an absolute lie, brother. I don't know what you're talking about.
So get this win. I fight August 25th. Get this win. Let's do it after this fight. How about that?
All right. Let me take care of Mike Lowell. Then we can fight 100%.
We can settle. You see, you're putting me in the middle of this negotiation. I can't do this right now. I don't get paid to do this, ladies and gentlemen. But Brandon Glanton, thank you for coming. Isaac I.C. Chamberlain, we'll see you in Vitality Stadium on Saturday. Good luck, sir.
How much do we love it when those moments happen?
So my phone's buzzing in my pocket, and Brandon's manager just said, "I've got a cruiserweight there. Just watch." And all of a sudden, this thing kicks off here, and this is what they're trying to source up. This fight could be. Isaac's he's not a bad man. Isaac will give the opportunity because he likes to fight. So this isn't something. The camera's keeping on. The security's there. They've got nothing to worry about. He's not that kind of guy.
He took it well, Isaac. He took it well with a little laugh.
Yeah, no, I like Brandon's style. We were talking about making things happen for yourself. That's another way how you do it. Spend your money, come over here and get in someone's face.
Do you like that, Johnny?
Yeah, so Brandon's signed with Chris Billam-Smith Jr. and Napa, and they work a lot out of Dubai, so they're trying to sign a lot of fighters. So he wants the opportunity. So again, for this fight to happen, it could happen down the line, but he's got to get people talking about him. Good way to start.
I think you just started just there, Johnny. Watch this space when it comes to that fight.
Of our championship main event, live from Vitality Stadium this Saturday on Sky Sports. Bournemouth one more time for Chris Billam-Smith.
That's a very relaxed Chris Billam-Smith you're seeing in the ring there, Andy.
Yep, I don't expect him to do an awful lot. Shane hasn't brought any kit out with him at all, so he's just peeling off the t-shirt. But I think other than that, we'll just see a little bit of shadow boxing, quick interview, quick chat with us maybe, and that'll be about it. As I said, on a Wednesday, when you're fighting on a Saturday,
They've got a lot on their plates this week.
They have.
Every fighter does in fight week, but it's about managing those things and doing what you need to do when you need to do it and when you don't.
Absolutely, and as I mentioned, they'll have this weigh-in 3 days before the fight where you've got to be within 3% of your fight weight, so that's another thing to think about, and they'll have done that by now, I'd have thought, and you don't really want to overdo it this evening. They've probably trained this morning, so this is just about showing your face and building up the fight as much as you possibly can.
So it looks relaxed, Johnny, but he looks very focused, doesn't he?
He has to be. He has to be. I'm looking at him. I don't think there's going to be a weight issue here. He looks very relaxed. Hasn't brought the gloves with him, so hasn't got to sweat out a lot here. He knows everything's on the line here for him. And if it doesn't happen today, he's thinking, when's this opportunity going to come again? I know Richard Riakpor's coming down at the weekend, and this is his yardstick. This is what he's looking at to say, well, I beat him, let me see. And he'll be sizing up Lawrence to see what the situation is. So again, for Chris, he can really gate crash this party because he's the one that they've probably chosen to ignore as the fight for the wooden spoon.
You say you don't think weight's going to be an issue for Chris Billam-Smith, but in fairness, Chris Billam-Smith is someone that is never really out the gym, is he? He lives and breathes the life, and I heard Shane talking in the week saying that the thing about Chris is every single day he wants to make that 1% increase, that 1% improvement. That's his mentality, and I think that's what shows. Otherwise, it's Chamberlain creeping up on us.
And he's always been like that. He's always been like that. You know, you think about some of the stuff he does. You know, the mouth tape, the glasses to keep out the blue light. He gave up drinking a long time ago. All of it is geared towards, as you say, those marginal gains.
How long?
Hello, Isaac.
Hey, how you doing?
This bromance going on right here. Good to see you, and it's good that you're going to be on the card on Saturday night. How relieved and how pleased are you to be out there?
Very happy, because we've been working so hard for this fight. Unfortunately, what happened, the Wild pulled out. I think his dentist didn't allow him to box. I don't know what's going on there. He must have had some fake toothache that you can get done in one day. So I don't really believe the porkies that he's saying, but we move, and we're here now. I still kept the same intensity in my training, and we're just here now. I just can't wait to put on a show for the great Bournemouth fans.
How frustrating is it for you that when you get to that stage and you're fighting opponent that pulls out because of that? You know, how frustrating is that for you?
It was kind of frustrating, but I kind of like take a day at least to deal with the frustrations. Then I'm back to it, you know, because at the end of the day, you can't really control what other people do or what happens. You can only control how you react to certain things. So all I can do is just, I took it in, I visualized it, and I was just like, okay, how do we move forward now? How do we work now?
Put some meat on the bones. The Brandon situation right there. What did you know about it? Come on, would you just hijack?
I promise you, he's saying he's been calling for me. I have no idea what he's talking about.
Is this genuinely the first
time? I promise you. I've seen him on like Box Raw adverts on social media and stuff. I was like, oh yeah, who's this guy and whatever. But never called for me. I've never heard such a thing. I don't know what he's talking about. So you're telling me he flew all the way to America from here? Bro, book a return ticket, man.
Shows his intent and perhaps a fight that may be down the line?
Yeah, of course. But right now, my main focus is taking care of Macau Luau first. And then if he's on it, he's on it. Do you know what I mean? Well, we can make everything happen.
And Saturday night for you, I guess it's just about getting out there again.
Getting out there and just appreciating all the Bournemouth fans and all the support, and it's going to be great. It's going to be amazing.
And then looking forward to the main event. Chris Billam-Smith is in the ring.
Yep.
Who's your money on in this one?
And honestly, it's hard because I fought both of these guys at different stages of my career, so it's going to be quite difficult to really say. And with McGuigan also used to train Lawrence, so it's going to be very difficult to really say. But I don't know, man. It's I don't know. Who knows what happened in the sparring sessions? Who knows what happened, behind closed doors? So it's different when you're sparring compared to when you're fighting. So may the best man win.
Yeah, good to see you on Saturday night. You're allowed to sit on the fence because you've been in the ring with both men. Johnny, you're not allowed to sit on the fence. Hello, Lawrence. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you so much for asking.
You're looking well, you're looking chilled. How are you feeling the fight week?
Both those things, well and chilled. Just chilling, like. Obviously, not got long left. It's Wednesday now, so we're only a few days away.
Can we ask you what sort of things you've been working on?
Just the fundamentals, man, always now, do you know what I mean? Obviously I've worked on my conditioning, so I wasn't really happy with how my conditioning was in my last fight, so I've really worked on pushing it in training, in sparring, because I'm very good at just nullifying and slowing stuff down, but this camp I've really worked on pushing the pace.
We're all talking about the fact that you two, former stablemates, that you're friends becoming enemies on Saturday night. Are we reading too much into that, do you think?
I think so. I see him here and I just see like another guy that I'm going to beat. I mean, I've had 19 fights, 19 wins, so this will just be number 20.
What's on the line for you on Saturday night? Not just your WO title, but also there's surely a lot of pride at stake.
For me, the only thing on the line is a boxing match. You know, I'm either going to win or lose the boxing match, and I'm planning on winning and winning well.
In what sort of fashion? What differences are we going to see in this fight to say the one against David Light? You gave your performance 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I think conditioning, lack of ring rust, and an opponent who claims they're going to come and really give it their best shot. You know what I mean? And they're gonna try their best, so we'll see.
There's a good turnout here today down at Bournemouth Pier, and that's going to grow as the week goes on. Saturday night, 15,000 people, a lot of support for Chris Billam-Smith. Johnny's already said that he thinks you're going to enjoy walking into the Lion's Den. Is that going to be the case? Are you thinking about that at all, or not?
No, of course you have to think about that stuff and just you know, mentally prepare for either eventuality. I mean, people here in Bournemouth seem to be receiving me well, but on the day it's a very different thing. However, for me, that none of that stuff ever really has mattered. Whether it's a pro crowd for me, anti-me, it's just going to be me just focusing on what I have to do.
One thing that's always struck me about you, from the amateurs right through to the pros, is that you don't take criticism personally. But at some point, after that last fight, I just wondered to myself, are we going to see him take anything a little bit personally? Because do you think it's really been fair? You were out for a year, first fight with a new trainer, and then the backlash, and now you're in the ring against a fellow stablemate 9 weeks later.
For me, yeah, like I don't really pay attention to that stuff. I just look at what I'm doing and what I've managed to accomplish and why I've got to that position, and it's all because of my mindset. So stuff like backlash, I don't really feel it personally. I just, like I said, stick to doing what I'm doing. I do believe that this fight will pose that whole opportunity to look good.
Can I just ask? You've walked in while Chris is doing his workout. Usually, you know, they'll hang about the back. Is a method to this madness here to stand there ringside while my man's warming up and with your whole team there at ringside while he's doing it?
No, it's just a warm outside, so I thought, you know, I'm going to come outside and have a little look. Do you know what I mean? This is Bournemouth. This is like, to me, I've done this so many times. Like, I actually don't feel anything. I don't.
But are you going to feel something on Saturday night because you're against your former stablemate, your former trainer? Is there going to be any anger in you?
No.
Any point to prove?
No.
None.
Oh, maybe a point to prove, but that's about it. Like, I'm not going to sit and pretend with you that I'm going to be some emotionally charged guy. That's just never been my mindset or my methodology towards boxing or life. I'm just going to go in there and do what I'm meant to do. Unfortunately for Chris, the way I have to win this fight is going to be via like dominating him, basically, if that makes sense. Because the way he's angling himself in terms of no one, like some of the stuff he said, if he actually tries to implement it, I think it's gonna set him up to get KO'd.
I sense you really like Chris. I sense that. I think maybe if you do anything, it'd be Shane, not Chris.
That's good. That's good for me. I like Shane as well. I just don't like losing. That's the bottom line. For me, my only motivation to win is I enjoy winning. So in terms of all of the spite and this, that, and the other, like I ain't got that. I'm gonna still get in there with 10 out shots and I'm gonna hurt him, but not because I don't like him. It's because that's how you win a boxing match. So I'm just gonna literally stick to that.
We will continue this conversation as the week goes on. Big Mo is going to call you up to the ring, so you need to go and do your business in the ring.
He is taking his world title and he's taking it on the road here in Bournemouth. Ladies and gentlemen, he comes to us with an undefeated record of 19 victories, no defeats, with 14 of those wins coming by way of knockout. From Hackney, London, England, he is the former British, Commonwealth, and European Cruiserweight Champion. And on Saturday night, he is the reigning, defending WBO Cruiserweight Champion of the world. He is the Sauce, Lawrence Okolie.
Do you know what, Andy? I think that answers your question, doesn't it? You wanted to see a bit more, I guess, spite from Lawrence this week. I don't see that we're going to get that from what we've just spoken.
No, it doesn't look like we are, and I do believe him when he says that, you know, this is another fight week. It's another fight that he never really gives a personal reaction or an emotional reaction to anything, that he doesn't feel the backlash. And
or is he just someone that even if he is, we're just not going to know? Because that's
honestly,
Lawrence.
I feel like he should. I feel like he should a bit more. I feel like he should take things a bit more personally. It doesn't mean that you enter the ring some kind of emotional wreck, but I think any fuel that you can pour on the flames can help you. So I would find that frustrating, to be honest with you. If I was Sugar Hill, I'd be wanting to turn out, you know, just an ice cold wrecking machine on Saturday night, and he might prove to be that still.
Could we mistake any of Lawrence's sort of laid-back nature as being complacent?
No, I don't believe it. I'm telling you, when they're in the gym, when they're doing what they're doing, he has intent. Sugar doesn't like losing either. Play it cool, play it like it's no big deal. I believe he's taking it. He's not laid back. He's got a good game face. It's like, it's no big deal. It's what it is. It's part of the game. It's part of the game plan. He'll have ticked every single box here to make sure he beats Chris and to make sure he beats Shane. And he's trying to be nonchalant about, like, it's no big deal. No, that's what it is to me. So we probably all hope that he's like not really taking him seriously. He's a cool nut.
And the things that he mentioned that he'd been working on with Sugar Hill were pretty predictable things, I guess. He'd been out of the ring, hadn't he, for just over a year when he fought David Light last time out. So things like working on your conditioning is exactly what he's going to be doing, just getting back in the ring, shaking on that ring rust and working on that.
Yeah, absolutely. But Johnny, with regard to the hookup with Sugar Hill, you know, Sugar Hill's a Kronk guy, and the Kronk guys can teach big guys to fight big man fights. Now, they did it with Vladimir Klitschko, a little bit fragile before they went to him, taught him how to get his feet underneath him, don't overextend, slam in the jab, slam in the right hand, keep your distance, you know, just those absolute basics. And that is what has to happen with him.
That's what I like, that big man fights, and exactly what it is. And that's why this union will not work exactly how Sugar wants it until about two or three fights down the line. This might be that fight. Lawrence has got to make sure. No, Chris has got to make sure.
Literally, it has to be, Johnny.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Chris has got to make sure he doesn't give Lawrence the space, because if he gives him the space, everything that Sugar's teaching Lawrence will come off to a T. He's got to smother him, he's got to get in his face, he's got to rough him up, make him feel uncomfortable when he wants to be comfortable, step on him when he wants to step off, have a breather. That's what Chris has got to do. Lawrence has got to, if he implements that Kronk style, he knocks Chris out if he can implement that style.
We just really need to see him snap a jab. Like watching that last fight, you look at the basics that he's got, you look at the levers that he's got, and he, you know, just to see him really just slam that jab, plant that jab, you know, I would love to see that from him, because you look at the raw materials and he's got to be capable of it.
That's what I'm saying. It's not a secret. It's not a secret that he's knocked out heavyweights. I mean, top tier UK heavyweights. He's knocked them out in sparring, so he has the power. He has that finishing power. It's just that style doesn't look sweet on the eye at this moment in time. But once he starts knocking him out, you forget about the style. You know, so he's just got to get that distance, and then find a way to let the trigger go.
It's fascinating. It really is, because I was in the same camp as you, Andy. I thought we were going to see a bit more from Lawrence, because it is personal. Let's strip it all away. This one is incredibly personal for both fighters.
Yeah, I think it is, and maybe we will see a bit more at the press conference tomorrow. I think as you get nearer, day by day, they kind of retreat into themselves. They get nearer fight mode. You're kind of taking yourself to that place where mentally you need to be prepared to do whatever it takes to win. That's what it's all about. And boxing's still that sport where whoever wants it more is going to have an edge. You can't have an opponent who wants it more than you. So they get edgier, don't they? We know that as we get closer to the night. And maybe someone will say something tomorrow. Maybe it'll be Shane that just gets a little bit of a bite out of him.
It is almost like it is 2 versus 1, isn't it, in terms of Lawrence Okolie and Chris Billam-Smith, because Chris has got Shane in his corner, and then Shane's saying should Chris win, which he genuinely believes Chris is ready and will win the fight, that would be up there for Shane in terms of achievements.
So what surprised me, what Ben said, was that Chris asked for this fight. and Chris, this is the choice he chose. So if that is the case, then that does surprise me, because that's true confidence, true belief, and maybe Shane has said, look, we can pull this off. It surprised me. That I thought, are there any other opportunities? So therefore, that's the only other reason why I think, well, they must be able to do something or know something for them to choose at this fight here in Bournemouth, because I'm quite sure if he'd have waited down the line, he'd have got a shot at the IBF, he'd have got a shot at the WBC or something like that. But he chose this.
I believe Shane is going to come over and have a chat with us in just a sec. Here he is, just making his way. Good to see you, Shane. Come up. The sunshine stage, that is.
Amazing. This is lovely, isn't it? I said not enjoying it as much as Spencer, but I'm enjoying the sunshine.
We've just had a bit of a chat with Lawrence up here, and Andy's spoken about it, Johnny's spoken about it. We kind of wanted to see a bit of spite from Lawrence Okolie this week, a bit more sort of intent there in what he was saying, but we're seeing the Lawrence Okolie that we've always seen. Yeah, not giving much away, very laid back, very cool. Are you buying that? Do you think you're able to rattle him?
I don't think he's rattled. I think he's here to prove a point. He had a long time off. He had a year out. He's been in there with a quite an awkward guy. The guy that was, even though he was pressing the fight in David Light, he was still quite negative, leaning back. He knows that Chris is going to give him options to let his hands go, but at the same time, it's a danger zone for him to exchange in. So I can't see it being a boring fight from watching the spars.
How much of an advantage are you seeing it that you know Lawrence so well?
Well, I think the advantage is that I know what he does well and I know how effective he is in close. A lot of people just see him, big tall guy, skinny legs, let me get inside, let me get underneath him and work him on the inside, but he's got 6'9" reach, he's extremely strong. You get him in a weight room, he's very, very strong. So when they get in there, you've got the Ease and Garvers of this world, they get in there and they don't realise how strong he is, and that's sapping them equally as much as it's sapping Lawrence. It's affecting him, but it's putting so much effort into them trying to get those attacks off in the inside, and I think there's cleverer ways to go about trying to beat him.
Such as?
We'll see on Saturday night.
I try every time. One time. I'm going to get there.
Sorry, when it came to the game plan, was it one of those situations where when the fight was made, you felt like you and Chris both thought you knew how to do it, or was it more you, or was it a combination?
Well, we said everyone might think that we took this after the David Light fight. We actually took it before the David Light fight. We spoke to John Wish and Ben Salom. I said, look, this is only going to go 3-4 rounds. Keep him ready, and he'll be ready to go on May the 27th. And it went 12 rounds. We actually thought our hopes and dreams were going to be gone by then. But credit to Lawrence, he's come back and he's got straight into camp. I think the activity is going to help him. He's got a bit more time to work continuously with Sugar Hill rather than doing 8-10 weeks, going off for a month or two, forgetting about it.
You mentioned he's been working on his conditioning a bit, because that was something that wasn't quite present there for the David Light fight, so he's obviously had that bit extra time in the camp this time.
Yeah, he's brought his strength and conditioning Duncan into camp as well, so whereas before he was just sending in programs, because I speak quite regularly with Duncan, he works with one of my fighters, so it's just there's no hatred here. There's just pure sportsmanship, and I think, but they're both going in there with the intent to knock each other out. Chris knows that he's going to struggle to win on points against Lawrence Okolie.
Shane, at what point did you think Chris had Lawrence's number? So at one point you trained both fights together. Yeah. So now you believe Chris has got his number. At what point did you realise that?
You're trying to put words in my mouth. I'm not saying I realise he's got his number. I feel like it's very competitive. And the shots that Lawrence is landing at range, the shots that Chris is landing at mid to short range, and as the spars started to go on, he started to be able to clip him at distance. And I just feel the stars are aligned. I feel like this is the right time to get Lawrence.
Because of how much they sparred, 300 to 500 rounds, I believe.
Yeah.
Is there a danger they're too familiar with each other?
No, it was always a juicy spar.
Where would this rank for you if Chris wins?
If Chris wins, it trumps all of my wins. George winning a world title on the fourth go, Carl Frampton becoming a 2-weight world champion, Josh Taylor unified. Obviously Lawrence boxed Golovaki. I think there was a lot more in Lawrence. I think he could have gone on to do greater things. Obviously he moved to Dubai, we stopped working, but Chris, from his amateur pedigree, from coming from small shows, up to headline in front of 15, 16,000 people in his home stadium, boxing a British world champion outside. If he wins it, it's 100%. I should retire as a coach.
Is it a little bit personal for you as well?
It's personal because I care so much about Chris, and it's not to say I don't care about Lawrence. It's just I had always a very a working relationship with Lawrence, but Chris started, as I said, unpaid shows. I used to let him stay at my house the whole time. He couldn't afford the accommodation coming to London. I'd let him stay, and you just build up that bond. Lawrence going to Rio and always being sort of touted as that world champion. He had the funding, he had all of that ability to create, make his dreams a reality, whereas Chris has created them.
And we've spoken about as well, I think I heard you say about Chris in the gym, how every single day he wants to increase by 1%. Yeah, and do you think that could be the difference in terms of mentality on Saturday?
Yeah. I mean, Lawrence is a front runner. We used to have a thing called a whoop, so he would always try and burn the most amount of
Other
calories.
brands are available, Shane.
Sorry, yeah, but there's other brands. But in our group, we would have a whoop. So Lawrence was like, I need to win this every day. I need to win. So he has a winning mentality. Chris has a different approach. He's more in the sense like, okay, let's try and fine tune my body. Let's look for advantages outside of boxing. And that's why for myself, obviously, I like to study. I like to sort of increase my knowledge in the human body. So he's been an athlete that's been a privilege to work with, because he's not just thought, I've got 2 hours in a boxing gym here. I need to just graft as hard as possible, trash yourself, go out and do a run as flat as possible. It's about zone 2 training, about making sure you're doing certain heart rate training, different sort of strength training. All of these things, I think, will.
And having trained them both, would you say that could be the difference between the two in terms of mentality?
I think holding form and discipline, it lies with Chris.
So I've got one for you. It's maybe quite punchy, no pun intended. Do you think Lawrence? Do you think he truly trusts his chin?
Looking to get all the juicy answers. I mean, I think that there is I know that Sesak hurt him in the fight, but he's got a very good ability of not showing it. But there's a reason that after 4 rounds, if he's not got them out of there and it's a hard fight, he makes sure he gets, he nullifies them. And that's up to us to make sure that in the 3-minute round with Lawrence, the first 3-4 rounds, there's like maybe 2 minutes of live boxing. If you look at the last half of the fight, there's like 45 seconds to a minute of live boxing. There's a lot of tying up there, and there's a lot of physicality there, and that is because he doesn't like that range. Everyone thinks that he's really effective at range, yes, but it burns up a lot of energy out there. So if he's working with Sugar Hill, get conditioning himself to make sure that he's working on that range, then great. He is as effective as at that range, but he also doesn't like it because he has to hold form and concentration.
So the obvious is make him work.
In
3 minutes of the round.
Exactly, yeah, 3 minutes of the round. Make him work, make sure that we don't play into his strengths, and they aren't always what they're seen as. That range and that power at the end of the shot. His strength, in my opinion, is that in close.
I completely agree with what you just said there, and that's what makes it so fascinating for me, is that the way that Sugar will try to get into fight, to take him to that kind of next level performance-wise, gives people more of a chance against him.
Next levels, you have to be able to hold form and discipline, and that's down to that. That's down to the athlete. You have to. Like, I knew what Lawrence did well, and I know what he does well, and I don't necessarily think like.
Does he have that next level?
I think he's definitely got the next level. He has that ability. He's one of the most talented boxers out there. I think there's a chink up there that he struggles.
Which is what?
He doesn't. I don't think he trusts himself. I don't think he trusts his ability sometimes. I think he wants to get the win more than actually being effective. So he resorts to certain tactics that aren't always that impressive on the eye, and also impressive on the opponent. I think he could have got a lot of his opponents out of there, but he didn't.
Do you think he'll mind walking into Chris's backyard on Saturday night, because there is a hell of a lot of sport there for Chris on Saturday?
I think he thrives on it. I think he thrives on that being in enemy territory. That he maybe being comfortable isn't the right way for Lawrence. Maybe the fact that he has to be uncomfortable being out, being in someone's home territory. Maybe that's what he needs to bring out the best in him. And hope we're preparing for the guy that's in McGuigan Gym, and I think like those 3 years that he was under my tutors, I feel like we saw the best Lawrence Okolie to date. Maybe in time he might progress with Sugar, but of that last performance, I don't think he's improved.
You feel like he needs a few more fights with him to sell it?
He might need a few more fights, and I think right now it's we respect him a lot. We respect him a lot, and hence the reason there's no bad blood, and we're expecting a really, really hard fight. But it's definitely a winnable fight.
Just one more from me.
Come on in.
The relationship you got with Chris is a close one, and you really, like you said, you care an awful lot about him. That's not untypical for you, because I think you've formed some very close relationships with your fighters down the years. Yeah. Is that always a good thing? Does it make it hard sometimes? Can you want it too much for them? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, there has to be a level of professionalism. But look, I mean, I said it the other day in an interview that just being here, being outside, getting Chris Billam-Smith to headline on Sky Sports, out in front of 15,000 people, fighting for a world title against a British fighter. It's just, he's already won. This is the icing on the cake.
The man himself has joined us, Chris Billam-Smith. Lawrence is in the ring. Chris, looking good. How are you feeling in your hometown? I mean, this surely is what dreams are made of.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a perfect story for me. Perfect story. The whole career and everything is built to Saturday night. So perfect opportunity for me, and now it's just down to me to do my job.
Which is what? I mean, where are you seeing? We're trying our best to get it out of them. Where do you see Lawrence's flaws? How do you beat Lawrence?
You got to hit him. No one hits him. I know it sounds silly because we're in the boxing game, but he's never looked in trouble in any of his fights. So you've got to find a way to you're punching and hitting him is easy, but you've got to get in a position to do that.
Chris,
that's the plan.
I'm sensing Shane's wanting you to make Lawrence work for 3 minutes of the round, and that would be the one thing that nobody's managed to do. Is it? Am I right in sensing that?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time I'm making people work for every second of every round, my intensity and stuff like that. But it's that's obviously a huge part of it. But like I said, you've got to get yourself into position to land the shots.
So you guys have sparred over 300 rounds. And I always talk about George Gross and James DeGale, where James was kind of king of the gym, and he kind of didn't respect the growth, the development of George coming through, and then George turned him over as a professional. Do you think Lawrence has missed your development, as a fighter, as a professional fighter, now as a world class fighter? Do you think he underestimates that? The way he's talking about or his demeanour about this, does it make you think that?
Yeah, I think so. I think he hasn't been in the gym for over a year now, so it's very much that's been a huge part of my development. The Isaac Chamberlain fight here last summer was a big part of my development. Obviously not the ideal camp, an absolute war, so mentally I had to go through a lot. And that was a huge part of my development. So, but physically as well, in the last 8 months, new strength conditioning coach that developed there, and then that's allowed me to do more with Shane as well.
Do you think you've learnt a lot more about Lawrence than anybody else has with all the sparring you've had?
Yeah, absolutely. I think no one's got into a fight with Lawrence prepared for the awkwardness. No one ever has done that. He's extremely awkward, effective at what he does. But he's so you have to have shared the ring with him to be able to get inside and work and do the things you need to do to figure him out, and I've obviously got that experience.
What did you make of his performance against David Light?
It wasn't great, but he also won wide, so you can't knock a man who is not performing very well and winning, and winning wide as well.
Because one thing that you have that Lawrence hasn't had in the last sort of year or just over a year is you've been active, and Lawrence hasn't. Are you seeing that as an advantage as well?
Yeah, for sure. It's always an advantage. being active. And it's it's just part of it of boxing. You know, an active fighter, you're always a happy fighter.
Do you think Lawrence is rattled at all? Is it personal between the two of you? We don't seem to be getting. It all changes every person we speak to, but is it personal for you?
No, it's not personal. You know, it's personal in the sense of it's my hometown, it's my dream, and he's just a man in the other corner with the belt that I've got to go and take.
And you are going to be walking out in front of 15,000 people on Saturday night. It's gone from 11,000 to 15,000. The third time in a year headlining at home. Have you visualised it, what it's going to be like walking out and doing the business? Yeah, absolutely. It's I had to visualise it because otherwise it would overwhelm me on the night, I think. But huge opportunity for me, and the crowd have been fantastic. They're the reason we're here time and time again, because they turned out last summer, they turned out again in December against somebody who nobody knew, and now they've turned out for me again and sold out the stadium. So they're superb. And with that though, so one more, how much pressure are you feeling? Because you do have the chance to achieve your dreams at home, everything I imagine you have hoped for. Are you feeling any pressure at all? Yeah, absolutely. There's as much pressure that can be on me now than could ever be on me, with who it is. You know, Shane's former fighter, so there's pressure from every angle. But like I always say, pressure's a privilege, and that for me is the main thing that you can't be in this sport if you don't like pressure. And I'm in such a privileged situation, so bring on the pressure.
On that though, it is, it's the way you've looked at it mentally. Has it kind of changed at all as the weeks have progressed? Because in a way you need to look upon this as being like any other fight. You devise a game plan, you prepare well, you execute the game plan. But of course it's not like any other fight. Have you tried to treat it like that, or have you kind of surrendered to the fact that you can't treat it like that because it isn't like any other fight?
Yeah, I mean, you're just so zoned in. It's impossible to get distracted or not be concentrated and focused in camp. So in a sense, you know, when you're fighting someone, no disrespect, but like Josai, who you don't know, and you sort of know that maybe even at his best, he probably can't beat a 60-70% version of you, then naturally it's just human nature to take your eye off the ball a little bit. But in a fight like this, you can't. So I guess in that sense, you're just 100% focused. And I have been from the start of the year, knowing that we're trying to get a world title fight down here. So for me, I've just been focused on them, and then when we got the opponent, it's just been focused on one person.
Opportunity-wise, Chris, I was told that you chomped at the bit once this opportunity came, and there may have been other options to fight for a world title. This was your call. This was your shout. And I asked Shane the same question. At what point of your union with Lawrence did you figure out you had his number for this fight?
Probably after he left, to be honest, because I've developed so much. I've sparred him, and you've had some good spars, you have some bad spars, and that doesn't really matter. You know, sparring doesn't really matter. But on fight night, you know, we'll see. But on fight night, you turn up and you get the job done. So you know, it's very, very confident about Saturday.
This is going the distance?
No.
Can you give us a prediction? Are you going to give us a prediction?
Not around, but I believe I'll stop Lawrence.
And just put into context how much it would mean, how you'd feel should your dreams come true on Saturday.
Yeah, it's hard. I don't think until that sort of thing happens. Until that happens, I don't think I'll be able to explain it. So speak to me on Saturday night and I'll let you know. I bet you anything that's the question everyone's going to ask you this week, because it's all about that. Best of luck, Chris. We will be speaking to you as the week goes on. Cheers, thank you very much. Cheers, thank you. See you soon.
Such a nice guy.
He's called the gentleman. He is the nicest guy outside the ring, and then that is just Chris Billam-Smith, isn't it? Lives and breathes it. What you see is what you get. Yeah, absolutely. But I think being in this kind of position where you're boxing at the stadium in front of your own supporters of the football club you support. I remember Josh Warrington talking about this after the event, after he beat Lew Selby at Elland Road, and he said that in the build-up he was just thinking to himself, this is what I've always wanted, but if I lose in front of 40,000 people at Elland Road, I can never go there again.
You know, and that's how he was thinking about it. You know, it may not have said it to anyone, but that's how he was thinking about it. So the pressure is a real thing. This is a small town. This is where you live. This is where you eat. You know. So, John, I remember you telling me that after the draw against De Leon, which was a fight and a spectacle which went down badly, people in Sheffield felt like you personally let them down. People you never even met, didn't even know. And when you walk the street, they're kind of looking at you and think, there goes that Nelson. He didn't do it for us. And if you're Chris, you'll be worried about that.
Are you sensing that from what we've just spoken
without
when I
a
asked
doubt,
about the pressure? I sense a little bit there that he really is feeling it.
I've walked those shoes, and it's a pressure you don't want, but it's a pressure that's thrust on you no matter what. But you thrive because you think, I want that responsibility, because it'll gear me on to fight even harder, to fight even more, and to do my best. And that's why this polite young Chris Billam-Smith that stood in front of the talking about the fight, we know he is going to give it his all. I asked Shane the same question as Chris. At what point did you figure you had his number? So there must have been a point where you thought, we can do this, because they called this fight out. Other opportunities were there for them, or would have been down the line. They called it out, so they believe that they've got his number.
You really do get a sense from Shane, don't you, just how much this means to not just Chris, but to Shane as well.
Yeah, you do, and that was why I asked him, because, you know, you think about his relationship with Frampton back in the day, that was really, really close. Josh Taylor, they had from the start, you know, he got on very, very well with George. George Groves came to him later in his career, but those two got close quickly. You know, we've all been down the gym, you see, with the Azims, Caroline, Ellie Scottney, you know, all of them basically. And
they're a close gym though, aren't they, as well?
They are, and he makes it, that's how he likes it. And the McGuigans is a family. You know, they're a very tight circle. They keep things in-house. They're incredibly loyal to each other, and they expect that exact same loyalty back from everybody else. So that was why I asked him, you know, can you be a bit too close sometimes? Can you want it a bit too much for your fighter? But I mean, he seems to kind of walk that line pretty effectively.
Can you care too much, Johnny?
In this fight, yeah, you can. You know, some fights it's the life. It's the life, and you just think, I cannot afford to lose. I cannot afford to make this slip. Brendan Clanton's in the ring now. He's been dogging every other cruiserweight that's around here. He's obviously with the Okolie camp. He wants to get in on the mix. He wants to gate crash the party. He wants us talking about it. And he's doing everything possible, as loud as possible. You know what you see right there? These guys work together. But trust me, he fancied that fight with Lawrence. They're playing the old pals act now. If he gets a chance to fight Lawrence, he'd take that. He's trying to gate crash this. So somebody's got to either put him in his place.
You can't blame him, Johnny. You can't blame him.
Someone's either got to put him in his place, or somebody, or right now we're watching a potential champion.
Are you surprised how much we're seeing from Lawrence in the ring this afternoon?
Well, I think this is Lawrence's workout, because Lawrence has spent a lot of time in here, more time than anybody else that's got up there today. This is his workout for the day. He'll not do anything else today. And Sugar said, look, we're here now. We've got to sweat on. The ring's yours. They've been in the ring at least 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I hadn't really thought of that, but he's done the most vigorous workout of any of the top of the card fighters. And we've always wondered how easy it's been to make cruiserweight for him. The word was from quite early on, Johnny, that it was time, but it's such a massive leap up that
I believe it, and that's what I'm saying. I believe it's time, but if you can, well, the money's at heavyweight. And so unless you're confident to think, you know what,
and that is Lawrence's plan, isn't it, in the long term, to move up?
Yeah. You make as much money as you can in the division where you can boss. He will be the strongest out of all the cruiserweights there. You know, questioning Richard Riakpor's punch power and strength. That's a fight obviously we'd like to see, and that's again.
Where does Riakpor fit in the mix in terms of these three?
It's a fight that can be easily made. They're under the same promotion and banner. I know Richard's fighting himself in a few weeks' time, so I think that is something that can be made. And I'm quite sure Lawrence will say, right, if he comes through Saturday night, let's do Richard next. Straight away.
I hope so. You'd imagine if Okolie wins on Saturday, then they'll make the final Riakpor. If Billam-Smith wins, then as I understand it, Okolie's got a rematch clause, and we'll see that one again.
Fascinating to know what actually goes through Lawrence Okolie's head, isn't it, when he's so chilled? Fascinating to know.
Yeah, and I've never really got close to having any kind of a clue.
I don't think he'd ever give us any of a clue. I think that's his thing.
Yeah, I remember watching him in the amateurs. I remember, like I said, I was ringside when he got stopped by Ostrandi Savod. He was a really, really good fighter, and it was with a kind of not quite over the top, but like a little chopping down right hand.
Was it a one shot or was it a break him down kind of stoppage?
Well, it was after about 10 seconds that he hit him with this shot, and it was kind of just a bent arm, right hook-ish, chopping down, caught him maybe on the temple or high on the jaw, and it scrambled him and he couldn't recover.
So when those happened, that's where I'm asking, how did he handle being hurt? Did you think he wanted out, or he was
No, he didn't want out. He managed to get through to the end of the round somehow, and then the GB coaches pulled him out. But he didn't. It never happened to him before. It looked like that to me. He didn't really necessarily know what to do, but he just kept. He just was grabbing.
Yeah, that's the side of the character you want to see. What you like
he was
when
doing whatever he could do to get through. But I remember sitting next to him at ringside after that, later in the night, everything had finished, we were just sitting at ringside, and he just said to me, I know this sounds mad, but I still think I could beat him. And he basically, if he could have fought Savon again the next day, he would have. And that kind of told me quite a lot about him. And like I said, I like the fact that he doesn't take things too personally, because I think it helps. But at the same time, the day will dawn one day where he snaps at someone and we think, but...
And it could well be this week. We just don't know. It might become press conference, face off on Friday, Johnny, that we might see something just switch.
No, the only time we'll see it is after the fight. If he loses, and we saw it with Anthony Joshua when he lost his first fight, and obviously we saw sides of him. We thought, we've not seen that publicly yet. So if he loses, maybe that's when we'll see.
How damaging would it be for Lawrence?
He hates losing. Of course, it'd be devastating and make him hungrier, and then he realised he actually was.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined here by the champion on Saturday, Lawrence Okolie. Lawrence, I feel like a lot of people when they come in here do an open workout, they kind of just shake out, run around the ring. You and Sugar go, no. We're going to do a full workout. You are fully sweating right now. I can tell that you are focused going into this challenge on Saturday.
Yeah, this part's all the fun. This isn't a full training session. It's just a little bit of a shakeout. I'll probably carry on in there. So I like to keep firing until it's time to rest.
Now, preparing for this fight, we've heard so much that, you and Chris were former teammates, and we've heard from McQuiggan a lot talking about what he knows about you, but you know a lot about Chris as well. So going into this preparation, how much of those former training sessions have helped you at all?
Well, yeah, it's definitely helped with my conditioning, because I know that Chris is a fit guy, motivated, determined, but, that stuff doesn't win fights. Boxing does.
Amen to that. Now, you have taken your belt on the road. You know what you're walking into. You know that he's from Bournemouth and all the Bournemouth fans are going to be there. But I can tell you love that challenge. You're a fighting champion. You want to prove to everyone that you're a fighting champion. So you packed up that belt and you're heading to Vitality Stadium. You excited to be in front of that massive Bournemouth crowd despite being the away side?
Yeah, I think it's all going to be pretty standard. There's going to be a ring walk. He's going to go first. I'll go second. They'll announce him first, they'll announce me second, and then we start fighting, and then we see what happens then.
Any prediction from you?
Now seeing him in person, I think I'm going to stop him in the mid-rounds.
Well, we're excited. I know the fans are excited. Ladies and gentlemen, your champion, defending Saturday night, he is the Sauce, Lawrence Okolie.
That's interesting, wasn't it, Andy? Now seeing Chris in person, and he thinks he's going to stop him in the mid-rounds. Did we see a flicker there?
Well, that's just an interesting statement. And the reason for it, the reason given is the interesting bit, isn't it? The fact that he feels like he's seen something in him, some sign of weakness physically or whatever it is that makes him think he's going to stop him. I think that's a little bit of game playing there. I think he's just trying to plant a seed there. I like that.
Plant the seed, just trying to get under Chris's skin. Do you think that was just a little sort of mental nudge?
That's what you do. I can remember boxing Carl Thompson saying I was going to stop him in the 5th round. I had no intention of doing it, but everybody believed it. So when there was a bit of pressure on the fight, you just say something just so they believe. So, yeah, of course, you've got to plant that seed.
What do you think is going to happen? Chris said it's not going the distance.
I don't believe it goes the distance. And if it goes the distance, it will be it'll be a hug fest. If that's the reason why it goes the distance. I can't see I see somebody getting stopped. Either Lawrence makes a mistake or Lawrence, pulls off the win he expects.
What do you think, Andy?
I'm just hoping for a good fight, for a good watch, and I think there's a good chance that it will be that, because like Shane said, and he hit the nail on the head, for Okolie to kind of make that statement and push on to that next level in the boxing pyramid, he has got to He's got to hold his feet, and he's got to maintain that distance, and he's got to punch hard. If he does that, he can knock out any man on the planet, but it gives the opponent more of a chance. So that's what I want to see.
We are pretty early on in fight week. Andy, you're let off the hook because you're commentating on it. Woohoo! Johnny, it's all down to you. You can't sit on the fence. Right now, we're Wednesday of fight week. Still a bit to go, but if you had to pick, who would you go for?
I'm going with form. I'm going with Lawrence Okolie to get a stoppage win.
Okay, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? And it is all set to be a fantastic fight. Like I said, it is just Wednesday. The open workouts are done. We're going to be back here tomorrow and Friday for the weigh-in. Lucky us and lucky you as well. Make sure you join us tomorrow for the press conference. See you at that one.